because they did so in contrast with other nations, particularly the Hungarians. Because of that, they present Slovak only as a plebeian people. And then, myth of a peaceful and hard-working plebeian nation was later reinforced by communist ideology. Folklore became a symbol of Slovak identity, despite the processes of modernization and globalization that Slovak society underwent. And you can ask, where is the connection with Montenegrin literature and culture? Without doubt, the consciousness of Slovak identity was strongly connected with the broader Slavic identity in the 19th century. The idea of Slavic brotherhood was realized through their interest in other Slavic nations, by reading works in all Slavic languages and by cultivating a fascination with the histories of other Slavic people. That was the first reason why Slovak Romantic writers were also interested in the Montenegrin nation, Montenegrin history and culture. But firstly, in the 1830s, they were particularly fascinated by Poland and Polish struggle for national and political independence. They actively responded to Polish uprising against Tsarist Russia. The Polish struggle reverberated in Slovak literary production and contributed to the radicalization of the young Romantic generation. But this radicalization of Slovak Romantic was naturally followed by the Austrian and Hungarian policies, which began to pose the threat to the Slovak national movement. Because of that, by the late 1830s, the leader of Slovak Romantics, Ludovít Štúr, had abandoned radical actions in favor of legal activities aimed at developing national culture, national language, publishing in literature in the Slovak language. He was also a member of the Hungarian parliament. So he chose legal activity, but the idea of national struggle continued, albeit in a different way. The revolutionary romantic line was sustained through poetry devoted mainly to Montenegrin themes. Poems depicting the Montenegrins' battles for national freedom became an indirect means of expressing the Slovak nation's own longing for liberty. Here's the list of all poems which were written and published in Slovak literary magazines. That's only the period of Slovak romanticism, because there were many others, as you see, at the end of the 19th century. But I would like to focus only on the Romantic period. And here is the list of the most popular themes. As you see, many of these characteristics are typical of Slavs as were described by Herder, but also some of them are absolutely in contrast to the Herderian characteristics. Montenegrin themes were very popular in situations, in the moments when Slovak leaders were moving away from conspiratorial, as in 1830s, or even military activity, as in the revolution of 1848. So there were popular at the end of 30s and again at the beginning of 60s, when Slovak leaders were very active in the field of culture, and we could call at the field of cultural policy. So we could say that Montenegrin subject matter functioned as an equivalent, a parallel, and even a substitute for Slovak longing for liberty. They could write, but they couldn't publish poems about own fighting, own struggling for liberty. So they published poems about Montenegrin struggling for liberty. The struggles of a Montenegrin nation resisting a much stronger adversary served as a powerful parallel to their own battles on the cultural front. By publishing poetry with Montenegrin themes, they also underscored the idea that the nation was itself a fragile construction that required constant defense. Finally, Montenegrin themes also provided an alternative to the Herderian scholars' vision of a passive Slavic, especially passive Slovak people, whose only salvation lay in belonging to a large Slavic family or to Russia, as one of the leaders said in 1850s. In conclusion, I would like to repeat that Montenegrin themes were particularly popular during periods of legal, peaceful struggle for the rights of the Slovak nation. At other times, Slovaks either participated in conspiracies and or fought for their rights with weapons in their hands, as in the revolution of 1848. I'm convinced that paying more attention to Montenegrin motives could be important in undermining the stereotypically constructed collective identity of Slovaks. What's more, the presence of these motives in the Romantic period is not related to Russian motives. Montenegrin motives do not refer to the so-called, as we know, Russian protection of small Slavic nations, but it refers to independent struggle. They prove that the phases of romantic masculinity are these motives are more diverse than those that function in national myths and stereotypes. By borrowing Montenegrin motives, Slovak authors dye also the costumes of heroes and fighters for themselves. Because of that, I think that this romantic topic from the romantic literature is actual even nowadays. Thank you very much.